Simon O'Connor.
Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to stand to take a call on this first reading of the New Zealand Business Number Bill, and actually quite pleased to speak after the previous member, and in fact other members that have spoken before, because I think this bill has been given the due consideration already in first reading that it deserves, and particularly as it moves towards the Commerce Select Committee. I think no one's philosophically opposed, as I can hear it at the moment, against the notion of having a singular number to identify business. There's naturally some questions which are arising around privacy and how that will be handled. But I think, Mr Speaker, on this side of the House, we are very proud of the National Party's engagement with business, be it large, medium or small. And I know over many recent weeks that enthusiasm, particularly for the small and medium enterprises, has been shown by the countless questions given to the Honourable Craig Foss in a chance and attempt to continue to shine the really good work that National proudly does with small to medium enterprises. And I welcome more questions not only from this side but of course from the opposition once they've finished reading and working out what it's all about. What I have to say is, as the MP for Tamaki, I'm very fortunate to have a number of business owners in the electorate. Tamaki is not a place of a number of businesses running per se, other than the usual likes of restaurants and cafes and various activities, but a lot of Auckland business owners are there. A great place indeed. But while they're pleased, Mr Speaker, with what is happening within governmental procedures around business, they still want more change. And one of the fundamental areas that comes up is how can we work better in a digital developing environment? And I think one of the key elements of this to make it happen, and I'm going to use two analogies in this talk, how to make it happen, how to make businesses more effective and efficient in a digital environment is the likes of a single business number. The first analogy I would draw your and the House's attention to is obviously in the health sector. As the Chair of the Health Committee, it's something which I'm interested in, but the notion of a national health number. We've had that for a number of years. I think it's very analogous of this bill. The ability to have a single number which enables government and others to identify a particular person or entity, and in the health context, of course, to provide the care that is necessary. Like anything which comes down to a singular number, it often becomes very concerning of how that's going to be used or misused. I think if we look at the health example, those issues really have not come up. In fact, in more recent weeks, and if it's slightly tangential, I hope the House will forgive me, but in the last few weeks in the Health Committee we've had a series of questions raised around privacy to do the Health Protection Amendment Bill and the notion of contact tracing. So if someone has a disease, an infectious disease, how do you reach out and make sure that those who have been infected are well looked after and identified? Some people were very, very concerned that using a single number, the NHI, may actually breach someone's privacy, but expert after expert, lobbyist from lobbyist, said actually the NHI, this particular single number, is an incredibly strong factor, if you will, enabling us to provide good and right care, and that it has been in the past rightfully used. So I think in terms of the New Zealand business number, this bill and the concerns of privacy, we can turn to the health sector and see an example there of something that's working rather well. Look, the other element, I think, and another metaphor comes actually in this case from the Ministry of Social Development, in which I worked for a number of years. So many people will come into that department again with a single number, or meant to come into the department with a single number. First and foremost, you treat them as an individual. They come before you as Mary Smith or as Joe Jackson. And you engage with them there. But as we move again into a digital environment, you need a number to enable them to access the systems. I mention that, again, like the health number, it's a way to identify, but what's also important, and I think this government is clear on it, you also need the systems in the background. In the MSD days, if someone came in, be it was through Work and Income or StudyLink, you had two computer systems to deal with, the old DOS-based system called Swift, and simultaneously a new Windows-based system called, I think it was UCV2. And the irony of someone working on the front line is that if one single person came in, even with their client number, you still had to use two completely different systems to try and work out what was their full and correct entitlement. So I use that as a caveat around this bill, that while we move quite rightly to a single number to identify businesses, I think from my experience, we want to make sure that the systems in the background are appropriate, because there's no point in having one New Zealand business number if we're going to have a multiplicity of systems in the background, which just confuse things. Because when I go out into the electorate or travel around the country, businesses want to work more efficiently. They want to ultimately save costs, and we as consumers want to see costs saved, because if the business is doing well, can produce something more cheaply, then paradoxically we get it cheaper as well. Businesses have been asking for a while now for this single business number, something which they can just use if they want to call up IRD, if they want to call up work and income, of course, if they are taking a young person, say, on for a role, and through the myriad of activities we have there, that actually the business owners can ring up and be instantly identified. They know exactly what clients are involved. If they are going to be calling up, could it be even something like the Commerce Commission? I'm not exactly sure how far this business number will be shared across government departments. I'm sure that's something that I'm looking towards the chair of the Select Committee, Melissa Lee. I'm sure that's something that we will be looking at as a Select Committee as this goes through, to say, well, what government departments will be using and accessing this number? How will it be interrelating? But it's very clear when I've talked to my constituents back in the fine seat of Tamaki that they want something like this, the ability to just call up. And some have noted already, and it's more in their personal context, that they're using the Real Me system. Without being too advertorial, it's where you basically go down to the post office or the like and sign yourself up a digital identity. The post office, I'm very happy to say the post offices are still open, thriving and well loved in my electorate. I can't speak to that, honourable members, but they are incredibly well loved. And have to actually thank New Zealand Post for the engagement that they are giving. I believe actually it's a former member of that party who's the chair, isn't it? Is it Michael Cullen? No. He's been closing more than he's opened. That's very interesting. But anyway, we digress, Mr. Speaker. We digress. We're talking about the Real Me. Again, it's an ability for individual New Zealanders to go down to establish their digital identity, which means they can walk into a bank, for example, or certain New Zealand Post services, IRD and other places, to actually access their services. And that is exactly analogous, Mr. Speaker, to the New Zealand Business Number Bill, that actually a range of New Zealand businesses, large and small, will be able to seek a number, so they too can most primarily, I would suggest, go online and access the services that they need. Look, this is part of the Better Public Services agenda of this government. It's something which the government has been following right since it was elected in 2008, and something I've been pleased to be associated with since being elected in 2011. It's result number 9 for those boffins who are very keen to be looking at the documents, and I'm sure the Megan Woods is onto it now. She is going to be going through that paper looking for result number 9. Excellent. For whom does the bell toll? We're here to deliver better public services. We're going to do our best, you see. It's all about numbers, you see. 10 is important. So it's around result number 9, where we're delivering better public services to business customers. And one of the goals we've given to ourselves is to reduce the cost to businesses dealing with government by 25% in 2017. So that's only 2 years away. It's something we are very keen on. Look, Mr. Speaker, it's for a range of groups in New Zealand. As we said, it's obviously a unique identifier, primarily aimed at the corporate and public entities and those that are uncorporated. There's a bit of talk in the bill around natural persons. In other words, if you have established a body corporate, I assume, or sole trading, a different name, through your trust arrangements, those too can be, they too can obtain a business number. I think quite importantly too, for those New Zealanders that operate multiple sole trading entities, corporate entities and the like, they will be able to obtain several numbers for those. Again, the whole purpose of this bill is to make things easier. We do note, because it hasn't been picked up by other speakers, there is a whole area within this bill around offences. It's one thing to obviously put something in place, but when you are making laws, making changes for something as important as business, you need to make sure that people are using these systems appropriately. We've seen with other legislation in the House, particularly in the digital or the sort of the e-commerce space. It's a new area, it's fraught with difficulty, so the bill at the moment is noting that a person who commits an offence and who knowingly uses a number that is a false New Zealand business number without a reasonable excuse could actually carry a maximum penalty and conviction of up to $250,000. So while I can see opposition members smiling, it's incredibly serious, and none of us would want to fall into this area. Mr. Speaker, there's also offences for people who make or give authorise statements or documents to the registrar that are false. Look, the integrity of a system like this is incredibly important. It's like the integrity of the government. The people know that that is fine and secure. It's why we continue to ride high in the polls. But it's the same around the things like RealMe. It's been the same as I talked at the start around the National Health Index number and so forth. People need confidence in the system. And so we are very keen that that confidence remains. I'm conscious of time. The numbers are against me. I sit down.